On the evening of July 5, the Spray, after having steered all day over a lumpy sea, took it into her head to go without the helmsman's aid. I had been steering southeast by south, but the wind hauling forward a bit, she dropped into a smooth lane heading southeast and making about 8 knots, her very best work. I crowded on sail to cross the track of the liners without loss of time, and to reach as soon as possible the friendly Gulf Stream. The fog lifting before night, I was afforded a look at the sun just as it was touching the sea. I watched it go down and out of sight. Then I turned my face eastward, and there, apparently at the very end of the bowsprit, was the smiling full moon rising out of the sea. Neptune himself coming over the bows could not have startled me more. "Good evening, sir," I cried. "I'm glad to see you." Many a long talk since then I have had with the man in the moon. He had my confidence on the voyage. About midnight the fog shut down again, denser than ever before. One could almost stand on it. It continued so for a number of days, the wind increasing to a gale. The waves rose high, but I had a good ship. Still, in the dismal fog, I felt myself drifting into loneliness, an insect on a straw in the midst of the elements. I lashed the helm, and my vessel held her course, and while she sailed, I slept. During these days, a feeling of awe crept over me. My memory worked with startling power. The ominous, the insignificant, the great, the small, the wonderful, the commonplace, all appeared before my mental vision in magical succession. Pages of my history were recalled, which had been so long forgotten that they seemed to belong to a previous existence. I heard all the voices of the past, laughing, crying, telling what I had heard them tell in many corners of the earth. The loneliness of my state wore off when the gale was high and I found much work to do. When fine weather returned, then came the sense of solitude which I could not shake off. I used my voice often, at first giving some order about the affairs of a ship, for I had been told that from disuse I should lose my speech. At the meridian altitude of the sun I called aloud 8 bells, after the custom on a ship at sea. Again from my cabin I cried to an imaginary man at the helm, "How does she head there?" And again, "Is she on her course?" But getting no reply, I was reminded the more palpably of my condition. My voice sounded hollow on the empty air, and I dropped the practice. However, it was not long before the thought came to me that when I was a lad I used to sing. Why not try that now, where it would disturb no one? My musical talent had never bred envy in others. But out on the Atlantic, to realize what it meant, you should have heard me sing. You should have seen the porpoises leap when I pitched my voice for the waves and the sea and all that was in it. Old turtles with large eyes poked their heads up out of the sea as I sang Johnny Boker, and Will pay Darby Doyle for his boots, and the like. But the porpoises were, on the whole, vastly more appreciative than the turtles. They jumped a deal higher. One day, when I was humming a favourite chant, I think it was Babylon's A-Fallen, a porpoise jumped higher than the bowsprit. Had the Spray been going a little faster, she would have scooped him in. The seabirds sailed around rather shy. July 10, 8 days at sea. The Spray was 1,200 miles east of Cape Sable. 150 miles a day for so small a vessel must be considered good sailing. It was the greatest run the Spray ever made before or since in so few days. On the evening of July 14, in better humour than ever before, all hands cried "Sail ho!" The sail was a barkentine, 3 points on the weather bow, hull down. Then came the night. My ship was sailing along now without attention to the helm. The wind was south, she was heading east. Her sails were trimmed like the sails of the Nautilus. They drew steadily all night. I went frequently on deck, but found all well. A merry breeze kept on from the south. Early in the morning of the 15th, the Spray was close aboard the Stranger, which proved to be La Vaguisa of Vigo, 23 days from Philadelphia, bound for Vigo. A lookout from his masthead had spied the Spray the evening before. The captain, when I came near enough, threw a line to me and sent a bottle of wine across, slung by the neck, and very good wine it was. He also sent his card, which bore the name of Juan Gantes. I think he was a good man, as Spaniards go. But when I asked him to report me all well, the Spray was passing him in a lively manner. He hauled his shoulders much above his head, and when his mate, who knew of my expedition, told him that I was alone, he crossed himself and made for his cabin. I did not see him again. By sundown, he was as far astern as he had been ahead the evening before. There was now less and less monotony. On July 16, the wind was northwest and clear, the sea smooth, and a large bark, hull down, came in sight on the lee bow. And at 2:30 p.m. I spoke the Stranger. She was the bark Java of Glasgow, from Peru for Queenstown for orders. Her old captain was bearish, but I met a bear once in Alaska that looked pleasanter. At least the bear seemed pleased to see me, but this grisly old man. Well, I suppose my hail disturbed his siesta, and my little sloop passing his great ship had somewhat the effect on him that a red rag has upon a bull. I had the advantage over heavy ships by long odds in the light winds of this and the 2 previous days. The wind was light, his ship was heavy and foul, making poor headway, while the Spray, with the great mainsail bellying even to light winds, was just skipping along as nimbly as one could wish. "How long has it been calm about here?" roared the captain of the Java, as I came within hail of him. "Dunno, captain," I shouted back as loud as I could bawl. "I haven't been here long." At this, the mate on the forecastle wore a broad grin. "I left Cape Sable 14 days ago," I added. I was now well across toward the Azores. "Mate," he roared to his chief officer, "mate, come here and listen to the Yankees yarn. Haul down the flag, mate, haul down the flag." In the best of humour after all, the Java surrendered to the Spray. The acute pain of solitude experienced at first never returned. I had penetrated a mystery, and by the way I had sailed through a fog. I had met Neptune in his wrath, but he found that I had not treated him with contempt, and so he suffered me to go on and explore. In the log for July 18 there is this entry: "Fine weather, wind south-southwest. Porpoises gambolling all about. The SS Olympia passed at 11:30 a.m. Longitude west 34 degrees 50 minutes. "It lacks now 3 minutes of the half hour," shouted the captain, as he gave me the longitude and the time. I admired the business-like air of the Olympia, but I have the feeling still that the captain was just a little too precise in his reckoning. That may be all well enough, however, where there is plenty of sea room. But overconfidence, I believe, was the cause of the disaster to the liner Atlantic, and many more like her. The captain knew too well where he was. There were no porpoises at all skipping along with the Olympia. Porpoises always prefer sailing ships. The captain was a young man, I observed, and had before him, I hope, a good record. Land ho! On the morning of July 19, a mystic dome like a mountain of silver stood alone in the sea ahead. Although the land was completely hidden by the white, glistening haze that shone in the sun like polished silver, I felt quite sure that it was Flores Island. At 4:30 p.m. it was abeam. The haze in the meantime had disappeared. Flores is 174 miles from Fayal, and although it is a high island, it remained many years undiscovered after the principal group of the islands had been colonized. Early on the morning of July 20, I saw Pico looming above the clouds on the starboard bow. Lower lands burst forth as the sun burned away the morning fog, and island after island came into view. As I approached nearer, cultivated fields appeared, and oh, how green the corn! Only those who have seen the Azores from the deck of a vessel realize the beauty of the mid-ocean picture. At 4:30 p.m. I cast anchor at Fayal, exactly 18 days from Cape Sable. The American consul in a smart boat came alongside before the spray reached the breakwater, and a young naval officer who feared for the safety of my vessel boarded and offered his services as pilot. The youngster, I have no good reason to doubt, could have handled a man of war, but the spray was too small for the amount of uniform he wore. However, after fouling all the craft in port and sinking a lighter, she was moored without much damage to herself. This wonderful pilot expected a gratification, I understood, but whether for the reason that his government and not I would have to pay the cost of raising the lighter, or because he did not sink the spray, I could never make out. But I forgive him.